Okay, how are you everyone? So this is gonna be a very short video, I hope, and a little bit unwieldy. It's Saturday night, but I think that I would like to share with you what we did on campus, and I'm not sure how many of you will come on Monday for collaborate session, so I just shortly will show you something. So I'll just talk about the reading for emotion only today, and on Monday I will talk about another aspect for assignment, but today about this. So we've done the reading for emotions, and we learned that in how to that we have all these 6 stages, and when the text has 200 pages, it's gonna be harder to actually think about how those stages are reflected in the text. And I suggest that the book, each chapter will be a different stage, and within the chapter you will have stages, but never mind. Let's look at it like at this very moment for children and analyzing shorter text. What I did though on Thursday in the on-campus class, I showed to students that you can use the same, let's call it a method, for analyzing posters or paintings. We looked at posters, okay? So we have setting focus, disturbance, which is first, it's all good. Then there's a conflict, then people try to resolve the conflict, and things happen. Whatever happens, life happens, then things resolve themselves, and then there's a moral. Some texts may miss some aspects of this structure. That doesn't mean that the structure is wrong, it means that the text is wrong. The text should have a moral. Sometimes well-written text may not have a moral because they want you to actually add it yourself in your own head as you reflect on the text. But more or less texts have this structure. Okay, so we looked at bullying because one of our students on the we were discussing our postings on the discussion board, and we thought, okay, well, one student was talking about bullying, so we just thought, okay, we'll just pull some bullying posters. And I went to Google Images and I asked for bullying posters, and that's how you can actually prepare your resources too. And we just picked a few. Okay, so I'm not gonna click on any of them. I just clicked on one, but I hope nothing will happen. Anyway, so we looked at them, and well, let's click on some of them, like for this one is really sort of typical of the ones we have chosen on campus. So setting the focus, right? How do you feel when you look at this poster? Do you feel, how do you, so the question is, so now setting the focus, so we no longer analyze text, we no longer have a linear sort of development of text, so we need to think, what do you think is the focus of it? We've got this yellow, but then we have black and red. So you don't talk to children, you don't point to them, look at this and look at this, because then you remove from them the power of thinking, right? But depending on the age of your students, you yourselves will learn how to use appropriate words. But what you want to do with that reading for emotion structure, you want to provoke thinking, right? So you no longer ask them, look at this word, have a look how this word is used. We're not doing anything like that because that's brainwashing, and that's removing the possibility from students to find the things that surprise them and then look for solutions to them. Right, so, but more or less, because I only have 10 minutes today, I don't want to make it 200-hour video. So, you just sort of think like for the first section, so you don't tell children, especially when they're young, but we're doing, or when you're introducing this method, when working with posters, you don't tell them, now we're gonna set the focus, right? You just say that, you know it in your mind, but you walk around and you're guided by those six stages. You're guided in your discussion, but you intelligently work with children or with students to prompt a discussion. So, you get them to the point. Like I'd use 2 hours probably in class to get students there. So I don't want to spend 2 hours now. But, I got our students on campus to the point that they got the idea that posters are there to communicate the message. You'd think it's simple and everybody knows it. It is not simple. You know it internally, you know it intuitively, but the difference between an educated person and a person who is not educated is the level of articulation, right? A person who is articulate can explain things really well, doesn't stutter, has these concepts ready on the tip of their tongue, and actually is aware, right? So we very often say that the difference between humans and other animals is that other animals are aware, but we are more aware. We are more self-conscious. We are more aware of the environment and so on, to the point that we can actually change the environment consciously, unconsciously as well, obviously. But we're trying to use our awareness to change the environment in a positive way. Okay, so I got the students after 300 hours. I got the students to actually get it, the understanding that posters are here to communicate. They talk to people. They're there to talk. You either create one for yourself, so it talks to you, or you create to talk to others. So that's very interesting. So what does it tell you? What does it, like when you look at it first, right? What does it say? Is it pleasant? Unpleasant? How does it make you feel when you just look at this? It's got this, people will say unpleasant or whatever they will say. Maybe try not to even direct them to those words, pleasant, unpleasant, right? But somehow provoke a discussion, and then provoke discussion about what's disturbing them about it, right? So the next, you as a person who is already pretty fluent with the system, right? So we've done that. It's sort of unpleasant. So now we're going and trying to decide what is unpleasant about it. What disturbs you? And now when students talk, there's this feast, right? A feast, when do you show the feast? When you want to hit something really strong, or when you want to show you protest, right? When you want to cuddle someone, you don't go to someone with a fist. So all of that. So when students will tell you, and I'm not saying there is no such a thing like a wrong thing. There are wrong things. There are wrong statements. If you produce a fist, and nobody is going to think that you're cuddling them. But when students come up with different examples, like on campus, I can't remember in relation to what level of a poster analysis I asked these questions, but basically the question was, does the poster say do something, or does it say don't do something? And one person said it makes me feel like I have to do something, and another person says it made me feel not to do something. So then I went to, no, don't get terrified, I've got 5,000 things open on my and I don't want to remove this one because I love this one. Oh, you should listen to this one. This is excellent video. You will love it. What's this one here? All right, so I want to see it because I will keep it. So Google, I'll go to Google Images, and now let's think of a poster that definitely will be pleasant, right? So what are the pleasant posters? I can't remember what I written. Eat well poster, right? Eat well poster. Oh my god, all these pizzas and everything. Oh, just look at this one, right? So I don't know whether you can say it, but does it sort of, so how does it present itself? What do you feel when you say it? Do you feel negative, positive, like the first reaction? And then what is it? So you can actually, with children and students, you can compare this one with the other one. In what way are they contrasting? So, and you can come up with 2 or 3, right? So you can now have a discussion. So what happens? You might think that you only talk about disturbance, which is what is disturbing you, what is pleasing you about this poster. But the reality is that students are now generating in their heads 5 million models, 5 million pictures. Remember, first is a challenge that puts them into freeze, and then their brain generates possibilities. And because they are not organized yet, because they felt challenged, now even if you just say one question, you think they come up with one answer. This is not true. They come up with 5,000, right? They show them in their head. And now you have to resolve it with them. And the way to resolve the tension and the freeze is to have examples, have discussion, compare, contrast, allow them to play, allow them to look at some other poster like this one. Does it still feel terrible or better? You know, something like that. So let's come back to our poster here. So what's so disturbing about it? Where's the conflict here? The feast, what else? I mean, students said, you know, some people said, I don't think anyone said, but that's maybe because I prevented them, because I asked them not to read. But, you know, children might say capital letters. When do we say capital letters? When we shout, right? So you should look for examples when they, and remember, the person in the first row who answers your question is very good, and you keep encouraging that. But what you may want to do is to analyze one poster together and then ask children to pick some posters and analyze themselves and tell you a story about it. So, so you want everybody to be engaged. So don't necessarily say, oh, well, you write capital letters when you shout. What you say to them, we don't know. Did you notice they're all capital letters? Do we always write capital letters? Then you go to newspaper and have a look. The newspaper has always capital letters. So that we, by comparing, is newspaper completely written totally with capital letters? No, it's written with print letters, but they're not capital letters. Okay, so where else do we see? What other text do we know? We can come up with different genres. Children will say, fairy tale. All right, fairy tale. Let's have a look at the fairy tale. So you go to Google, you pick some fairy tale, I don't know, about the donkey or something, right? You pick up a fairy tale, we look how it's written, and we find out that it's not written in whatever. So maybe you yourselves, because I can't think about it, you can actually go on Google before you go to class and type in Google, when do you write in capital letters only? When you want people to see things, right? Like, and usually you can't, you know, you can actually play it with students and write a long text with capital letters only, and it's difficult to read, right? So it has to be, capital letters have to be, they enhance visibility of the text, but only when there is not much text. If you have 500 pages of a PhD thesis written in capital letters only, nobody could read it, right? Because it's just like unwieldy. So, and that's how people learn, right? That's how people learn. That's how you are learning right now, because you never thought about it. I bet you haven't. So it's not just, we're not looking for an answer. We're looking for why here, not there. That's what that's what exploration is, and that's what learning is. Because now, if we find out why here is capital, but why in newspaper is not capital, and we don't know why in the newspaper it's not capital, okay, we're gonna create now. We're gonna copy this text from the newspaper, place it into capitals now, because computer does it in 5 seconds, and how does it look like? And that's how we're learning, and that's how we're helping students to activate that right hemisphere for increasingly more imagination, more pictures, more stories in their head, before the brain starts organizing it and put it in the left hemisphere. And the left hemisphere is your friend and is your enemy. One of the reasons I have an accent is my left hemisphere. One of the reasons we don't learn is the left hemisphere. And I have this article somewhere open here, because I've got everything open today. But there is an article written by Ramachandran, and if any of you are interested, I might actually put it on the somewhere. I will put it on the announcements, but only for those who are interested. Not all of you have. Maybe I even put it already somewhere, I don't know. And basically what happens, the left hemisphere is the one that masters things, and the right hemisphere is the one that learns, right? The left hemisphere already knows things, the right hemisphere is learning things. That's why you have two hemispheres. And the left hemisphere knows things. So sometimes when people have the right hemisphere injured, but their left hemisphere remembers that they had their left arm working. So even if their left arm is no longer working and they can see it, but the right hemisphere is not learning, A person with an injured right hemisphere will be telling you that the sick hand is fully functional. And you say, but you cannot scratch yourself. Oh, I know, I'm a little bit tired, but it's fully functional. I just did that. Or they will lie to you, or they're not lying. It's just simply that the left hemisphere imposes itself. So what you need to do is to trigger. You don't want to trigger the left hemisphere when you actually are a teacher. You want to trigger the right hemisphere. Challenge. Throw out pictures, more pictures, have a look, test it how capital letters would look if we actually wrote the whole newspaper with capital letters, and then show them examples where capital letters actually meant screaming and shouting, and that means screaming, shouting, because it's really like a single text, small text, short text, right? So it's something to draw attention to, and by exploring with children through different posters and also typing opposite and checking how it looks, you actually generate those right hemisphere activities in the brain, right? And that's the way to do it. Not just analyze this text and say, now we can go home. They've learned nothing. If you tell them everything that is in this poster, you taught them nothing. They have to actually do this expansive journey, right? When you're moving into the new house, what do? Do you take your bed and put it in the bedroom? You don't. You go to this room and that room and another room, then you go to the garden, you have a look at the garden, you touch the trees, you know. I mean, what is the tree gonna feel differently than any other tree? Maybe. So you touch the trees, you have a look, you do all this, what the rat does. When the rat is in the new labyrinth, does this exploration, and you do it with students. So what disturbs us? Does it talk? Because you know, as a teacher, there's a dialogue. Okay, whatever emotion, is it talking to us? Is there, what is it saying to us, right? So now it's a dialogue, right? Just in case anyone has lost memory, setting focus, we've done the disturbance, dialogue. How do we know, is it talking to us, right? It's got this face, it's got these colors are talking to us, danger. How do you know that red means danger, right? Where is this red danger? Right, you can actually, some of you who actually know some biology, because some of you are scientists, you can show them that a lot of animals put on red colors, especially when they are poisonous. So in nature, red means danger. You touch me and you're dead, right? So all of that. You go to those capital letters, you do the exploration. All of this is gonna take you hours of tremendous fun with your best friends, because your students in your classroom are your best friends, little people who absolutely love you. Even when they are older, they still love you. Even when and usually when they talk in classroom, it's not because they naughty or something, but some of them just can't help themselves. But very often it is because if you don't engage their right hemisphere and you don't give them exploratory opportunities and creative opportunities, what happens? They disconnect. And when they disconnect, they have to talk to each other to tell each other that they're not stupid, because their right hemisphere knows it's not learning, right? They can't, it just is in a stress, couldn't respond to the teacher's request. So they have to talk to each other and tell each other, we're not stupid, we're fine, she's just doing something weird, but I'm not paying attention, you're not paying attention, therefore if you are fine, I am fine. So that's what very often that naughtiness is. So anyway, so we done the sort of dialogue here, right? So I'm just coming with a few examples, but you can come with, your children will come up with more. So you can have a look where else there was a feast, where else and compare with this other. Do we have red color here? Oh my goodness, we have red color here. Is it any differently looking this red color than this red color? Well, like this one feels a bit more pleasant, doesn't it? It doesn't have that yellow and black, right? And this one, wherever it was, right? So you can just do this analysis with colors and compare with other things. And why is it the other one has red, but it doesn't look as terrifying as this one? So maybe the contrast a bit softer, right? All of that. So after dialogue is the development, right? Well, maybe the development. So what's the development here? Well, what in all of this, right? In all of this, what do you think this whole thing is? So we can now start reading. It's a warning. So how's the feast working with the warning? How's the feast working with the color? Why is the feast on the white background? I mean, there's no truth. Ask Picasso. Picasso wouldn't have a clue why he painted the things. He just painted things because they looked to him that way. It's all, later on, critics of art wrote stories about it and told us what it all meant. So anyway, so you just create a story, and now you can allow some students of yours who are still illiterate and want to actually read it, you make them type this thing into the computer so that the avatar, remember the avatar that is the speech to text and text to speech, you use it so that the avatar reads it to them what it says, and so on. Make up your mind to be kind. Okay, so all that. So it's a development. So what's the resolution? How does the whole thing make you feel in terms of what it represents? So do you like it? Would you do it this way? Let's have a discussion. What colors would you use? Blah 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 blah. What blah blah blah. You can just look. No end to it, right? Would you make it on the poster on the paper? Would you make it on something else? Would you just no end to the discussion? And that's the best part about this reading for emotion, that there is no constraint. All it is, it's just compare, contrast, use different materials, different types of text, engage them in an analysis. And what's the moral? What's the moral? That what do you think the moral of the poster should be like? What do you think? Is there a moral in this poster? If there is a moral, remember, children, every fable, every story we read had a moral. Do you remember those morals? Can anyone remember? Can anyone say some moral? You don't remember the morals? Okay, well, let's have a look at some morals, right? So what moral do you think this poster is sending to us? Is it a warning moral? Is it a pacifying? You see how you teach vocabulary? Is it pacifying us? Is it giving us a relief? Is it reassuring us? Is it confronting us? What do you think that moral will do to us? We don't know what it means to confront. And then you can explore what it means to confront. Then we decide on the emotion of the moral, and now we can create the moral with words. And then we can put the moral into the talk typer. The talk typer will come up with words. We can check in talk typer whether the computer spat out the words we said. I don't know whether I can do it here, friends. The talk typer would be very interesting, because when I'm using talktyper.com, when I'm recording myself on my computer is not very good in dealing with. So what would we say? What the moral would be? To confront. To confront. What could be the moral for confronting you? If you're not nice, you are part. Be nice, be part of us. Okay, so kids don't know, so that's the moral. And kids don't know whether it's the right saying, so they can actually copy this and put it now into the avatar, which is the outcast thing. Oh, this is our thing, so I can actually, I'm not gonna do that there. So we have outcast, and I have the outcast here. So the kids can actually put it into the avatar. They can make the avatar say it. You see, I have this fast broadband in my house, so it takes 2 years to download everything. Was it the ABN or whatever they called it, that network?
Be nice, be part of us. Be nice, be part of us.
Oh my goodness, she said exactly what we made the thing. So how else do we know? Why do we have breaks? We can analyze why we have breaks. So we can analyze because we can pick one word and we can just put it in the avatar, and we can just put this B here, and she will only say B, right?
B.
Oh my goodness, and what about if we say, put some more words here, she will say something else. Anyway, the point is they can play with it, and you're a teacher, so the teacher is like a mother, patient, understanding, and we've got many hours. All right, so I can't remember where I was. I was on Google somewhere. This is a book. This is Google, not that Google, that Google. All right, so we have a moral, and we can actually, so if we were designing this poster, where would we put it, how we would put it, what colors would we do we really have to make it so confrontative? If you can do a moral lesson now, you know, like maybe we could actually, when we want to speak to someone and we want to convince them to something, maybe it's much nicer to be nice to a person, because you are actually teaching by role modeling non-bullying, because when you show a fist and you have these aggressive colors, you are actually not role modeling positive feelings, right? So we can now think of how we could actually redo this poster with different colors and different things, so that the different emotions happen, so you can now just go through that. But what I just did now is I took you through the analysis to show you that you can actually design 5 lessons around the idea how posters and how a text or how a fable can actually be about. You can use the reading for emotion model by analyzing a fable, which is also about not bullying, and by analyzing a poster, which is also about not bullying, and I don't know what else could be about not bullying. And by analyzing those different tools, even just using the same method, this reading for emotion, what children now have, they have had full of inspiration. Now they know there are literacy tools out there that can be used for something amazing they could create. So they could create maybe a poster or a video, maybe, I don't know, we didn't do the video here. So maybe a poster. So you can't make them create something you haven't taught them, right? So we can't do the video because we just did today a poster, and maybe you will also use the same method on the fables. So maybe they will want to create something in between, but it's not poster and not the fable, but something in between, and put it somewhere for display in the school. And you let them happen, because remember, I know that schools today are all about reproduction of templates, right? Because we're still in the 19th century of producing workers who can actually put a particular screw into a particular place in the machine, right? We're still there, very good. But the idea is we have those principles of creative and critical thinking and all of that. So I always say to people, when was rock and roll invented? Clearly wasn't there before. Like 2 million years ago, nobody was dancing to rock and roll. So, but those things don't develop overnight. It's like a shift. So with children, when you show them posters and when you show them fables, and when they create something which is neither a poster nor a fable, fine. Because one day someone might create a different type of a poster and become an artist. But when you reduce them and narrow them, no, friends, this is how we do a poster. Here's a big letter, here's a big drawing, and here's another big letter. What you created is just basically a monkey. Monkey sees, monkey does, right? There's no artist there. There's no person who actually uses literacy tools to actually express themselves and communicate with others. Now they're using literacy tools to do the things for what someone thought those tools were invented. All right, so I'm done for today. That was a very quick description of how to work with emotion tools, but just for posters, but you can also use it for stories. All right, I hope it was fine. Now I just wanted to show you this thing here. I saw this because I was, you can analyze what about these colors. Are they aggressive? What's the difference? It's still black, red, and yellow, like in the other posters. You can actually look at that. But is it aggressive? That yellow in the middle, the sun, right, warms it up. It's a completely different reaction. But I looked at something else here, so you can look at those posters too. I just typed, what did I type in the search engine? I tell you what I typed. Posters by Australia's Aboriginals, or by Australian Aboriginals, you can type whatever. But there was something I found interesting. I will never find it. You know how you can never find anything you look for? Probably wasn't relevant, right? Okay. So there you go. That's for today. Okay, bye.